Hey everybody, welcome to Season 2 of the Author on Wheels podcast. My name is John Wood, and I am affectionately known as Author on Wheels. Join us as we have some incredible interviews with some incredible authors on the Author on Wheels podcast. Ryley Fritz does not have any limitations. She's a model with spina bifida, and she devotes her life to telling her story by modeling without limitations. So join us on the Author on Wheels podcast as we sit down with model Ryley Fritz. I'm going to start at 45. Hey everybody, welcome to the Author on Wheels podcast, Season 2, Episode number 4. My name is John Wood, and today we are talking with another awesome friend. Today's visit takes place in Ohio with 21-year-old model Ryley Fritz. Ryley was born with spina bifida, but did not let that stop her from telling her story as a model in a wheelchair. Limitations are no match for Ryley as she strives every day to live her life to the fullest. Ryley, welcome to the Author on Wheels podcast. How are you?
Good, thank you for having me.
Good. I'm glad you are able to join us today. Basically, we just wanted to hear a little bit about your story as being a model in a wheelchair with spina bifida, and kind of just get your opinion on the stigmas that are in place today surrounding people with disabilities and not having the opportunity to tell their story the way they want to. Because here on the Author on Wheels podcast, we tell all of our guests that they are allowed to tell their story in any way possible, whether it be using extra words or, whatever the case may be. And you are just one of the prime examples of telling your story to the fullest. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I have spina bifida, and for me that means I'm in a wheelchair, and I've had over 12 surgeries, I think. And so I've been using that to help me do disability pride videos of all sorts of disabilities. And recently I started modeling for adaptive jewelry and soon hopefully other things. That's basically me in a nutshell.
That is awesome. So when did you know that you wanted to be a model?
I've always enjoyed doing stuff like that since I was little. And recently more and more people told me I should do it. So that kind of confirmed it.
That's just that way of, I guess it's almost like that way of God telling you, hey, this is what you're good at, let's do this.
Yeah, exactly.
Do people act differently towards you because you're in a wheelchair or that you're a model in a wheelchair?
It depends on the person. Most people are very kind, very nice, but sometimes you have someone that's like asks some weird questions or staring at you, but it's very rare if that happens to me.
Right. What is your mindset when you're doing a modeling session? Like, what is your focus?
Showing my disability, but also distracting them from the disability so they focus on me.
I absolutely love that. I really do. Now, going back on the mindset a little bit, distracting from the disability. I like the way you put that. Now, whenever it comes to having a disability and doing what you do, have there ever been times where you're just like, you go into a session like that and you feel like, maybe it's not going to turn out so good? You ever have that negative mindset of, this might not turn out so good because of the disability?
Yeah, usually when I'm not familiar with like their audience, when I'm doing stuff like that.
I see. Now, that's kind of different because I do a lot of, before COVID, I used to do a lot of public speaking, and I've done a couple of engagements. I actually had one engagement where it was my first time doing it. I was at a school with people that I knew, and even then I drew a blank on what I'm supposed to talk about, and I'm sitting here looking at my iPad fumbling through my notes, and I'm like, oh god, this is not right. But no, I think that's just one of the main things that our brains go through when we're doing things like we do. It's just that mindset of maybe I'll do this and get it over with, or maybe I'll just do it to the fullest extent that I can and see what happens from that. And I think that is probably the best way to go about it. And thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Now, where can people contact you about your modeling?
On my Instagram, which is all lowercase RY _ makeup _ 13.
Okay, great. And what we'll do is, guys, the links to all of our guests' information and social media are in the description of the interview. So go ahead and check that out, guys. Do you have any parting words for our audience today, Ryley?
Don't let your disability affect what you want to do. If you want to be a model, be a model. If you want to be a singer, be a singer. Shouldn't matter what disability you have or if you have a disability, because you can do whatever you want, just like everybody else.
I absolutely love that. Guys, that's the end of today's interview. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'd like to thank our guest, Ryley Fritz, for joining us on Season 2, Episode number 4 of the Author on Wheels podcast. And before we go, I'd like to impose a question. How are you telling your story? We all have a story, and it's up to us to find our unique way of telling our story. Because as I always say, a story is only as good as the person telling it. So with that said, thank you for listening, and we will see you on the next episode. Ryley, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
You are very welcome. We'll see you soon. All right? Bye-bye. The Author on Wheels podcast is available in many different streaming sites like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Overcast, Breaker, Castbox, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, and Stitcher.